sudden abandonment, but a gradual redirection of energy and affection that left the sisters feeling like satellites drifting further from their sun. Mark, consumed by the burgeoning romance and the weight of Chloe's own family's needs, seemed to operate in a newly defined sphere, one that increasingly excluded the familiar orbits of his own kin. Chloe, a woman of warmth and an undeniable vivacity, had effortlessly woven herself into the fabric of their lives. Her laughter, a clear, melodious sound, often filled the usually quiet house, a welcome counterpoint to the persistent hum of anxiety that had become its soundtrack. Lisa, ever the sensitive barometer of familial harmony, had taken to Chloe with an open heart, finding in her a kindred spirit. There was a youthful effervescence about Chloe that resonated with Lisa's own, a shared language of dreams and aspirations that Rita, caught in the practicalities of their new reality, had momentarily lost touch with. Rita, too, had initially embraced Chloe, seeing in her brother's eyes a reflection of genuine happiness, a light that had been absent for too long. The shared grief that had bound the siblings so tightly in the aftermath of their parents' passing had, for a brief period, seemed to loosen its grip, allowing space for new connections to form. But the landscape of their family had been irrevocably altered by loss, and that altered terrain proved fertile ground for new strains. Chloe's family, it turned out, was not merely in need of emotional support, their challenges ran deeper, entwined with health concerns and the accompanying financial burdens. Mark, ever the dutiful son and brother, found himself drawn into this new web of responsibility. It began subtly, with extended phone calls that took him to the quiet corners of the house, with evenings that stretched later as he offered support or assistance. What had once been spontaneous evenings spent together, rehashing the day's events or planning for the future, now became a series of carefully orchestrated rearrangements to accommodate Chloe's schedule and her family's emergencies. Rita watched, a growing unease coiling in her stomach. Her own dreams of advancing her career through specialized computer training, a plan meticulously laid out and eagerly anticipated, began to feel increasingly precarious. The funds that Mark had promised, the savings painstakingly accrued from his own relentless work ethic, were no longer spoken of with the same certainty. When the topic arose, Mark's responses became vague, his gaze averted, a subtle tension replacing the easy camaraderie they once shared. "Things are a bit tight right now, Rita," he would say, his voice lacking its usual conviction. "We have some unexpected expenses." The "we" felt like a deliberate inclusion, an attempt to absorb Chloe's family's needs into their own already strained financial ecosystem, a concept Rita found difficult to accept. Lisa, too, began to feel the shift. Her requests for help with school projects, her excited chatter about nascent crushes or the mundane details of her national service, seemed to elicit less immediate attention. Mark was still present, still there to ensure she was fed and sheltered, but the quality of his presence had changed. The engaged, actively listening brother had become a more passive, preoccupied figure. He was there, but his mind was often elsewhere, wrestling with the complexities of Chloe's family situation, with the financial implications of his new commitments. The spontaneous outings, the shared laughter over silly jokes, the comfortable silences that spoke of deep understanding, these were becoming rare commodities. Rita found herself resorting to polite inquiries rather than direct demands. The idea of confronting Mark directly felt fraught with peril, a risk she wasn't sure she was prepared to take. She knew the sacrifices he had already made, the immense weight he carried in the wake of their parents' deaths. She had admired his unwavering strength, his stoicism in the face of overwhelming loss. To add her own needs, her own frustrations, to his already heavy burden felt like a betrayal of that admiration, a selfish act that would only widen the chasm between them. Yet, the thought of her future being sacrificed on the altar of new, albeit perhaps worthy, obligations gnawed at her. Her computer training wasn't just about personal ambition, it was about carving out a path to independence, about being able to contribute meaningfully to the family's stability, about not being a perpetual burden. One crisp autumn afternoon, as leaves painted the world in hues of amber and gold, Rita found herself standing at the threshold of Chloe's family home. She had come with Lisa, a rare joint excursion, ostensibly to drop off a small gift for Chloe's mother, but in truth, Rita harbored a desperate hope of seeing Mark, of having a quiet word of 9. Somehow recalibrating their fractured communication. The house was larger, more imposing than their own modest dwelling, a testament to a different socioeconomic reality. As they approached, the low murmur of voices spilled from an open window, and Rita recognized Mark's distinctive laugh, followed by Chloe's, then a more subdued, almost frail voice she assumed was Chloe's mother. She hesitated, a sudden wave of apprehension washing over her. This was not her territory. This was a world Mark was increasingly inhabiting, a world that seemed to be pulling him further away from her. Lisa, sensing her sister's hesitation, squeezed her hand. "Come on, Rita," she whispered, her voice a gentle encouragement. "It's okay." They were met at the door by Chloe, her face lighting up with a genuine smile. "Rita. Lisa. What a lovely surprise," she exclaimed, ushering them inside. The air within was thick with the scent of disinfectant and the faint, cloying aroma of medicinal herbs. The living room was tastefully furnished, but the overall impression was one of subdued domesticity, of lives lived under the shadow of illness. Chloe's mother sat in a comfortable armchair, her face etched with the weariness of prolonged suffering, her eyes bright but clouded with a gentle resignation. Chloe's father, a man whose frame seemed bowed by the weight of his responsibilities, offered a weak nod of greeting. Mark was in the kitchen, talking on his phone, his voice a low, serious tone that Rita rarely heard anymore. He emerged a few moments later, a slight frown creasing his brow, and his expression shifted to one of surprise, then a flicker of something akin to annoyance, as he saw them. "Rita? Lisa? What are you doing here?" The question, delivered without malice but with a clear lack of anticipation, struck Rita like a small, sharp stone. It reinforced the feeling that her presence, her needs, were an intrusion into his carefully managed new life. We wanted to see how everyone was doing," Rita replied, forcing a smile. "And bring this for your mother, Chloe." Chloe accepted the gift with gratitude, but the moment of pleasantries felt strained. Mark excused himself soon after, citing an urgent work matter, a familiar refrain that underscored his increasing unavailability. Rita and Lisa spent a brief, awkward period making polite conversation, trying to ascertain the extent of the family's needs without appearing intrusive. Chloe spoke with a mixture of love and weariness about her parents' condition, about the constant vigilance required, about the financial strain of specialized care and medication. Rita listened, a growing sense of resignation settling over her. She saw the genuine affection between Mark and Chloe, the shared burden that clearly bound them, and she understood, on an intellectual level, why Mark was so invested. But understanding did not erase the sting of her own deferred dreams, the quiet ache of being sidelined. As they left, the unspoken weight of their conversation hung heavy in the air. Lisa walked beside Rita, her usual effervescence muted. "He seems so different, doesn't he?" she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. Rita nodded, her gaze fixed on the pavement ahead. "He's got a lot on his plate, Lisa," she said, the words feeling hollow even to herself. It was a generous assessment, a charitable interpretation of a reality that felt increasingly like neglect. The argument, when it finally erupted, was less a sudden explosion and more the inevitable culmination of weeks of simmering tension. It happened one evening, the air thick with the unspoken. Rita, having received a notice about an upcoming registration deadline for her computer training program, felt a renewed sense of urgency. She approached Mark, not with anger, but with a carefully constructed plea. "Mark," she began, her voice steady. "The deadline for the advanced computer course registration is next week. We really need to sort out the fees." Mark, who had been poring over a stack of bills, looked up, his expression weary. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration Rita had seen him repeat with increasing frequency. "Rita, I told you," he began, his voice tight, "I can't cover it right now. Chloe's mother had a setback, and the medical bills are, they're substantial. We had to divert some funds." "I'm sorry." The casual dismissal, the almost clinical explanation, struck Rita with the force of a physical blow. "Divert some funds," she repeated, her voice rising. "Mark, those funds were for my training. It's my future. You promised. And I'm trying to keep this family afloat, Rita." Mark retorted, his own frustration boiling over. "Do you have any idea what it takes? Chloe's parents, they need help. Real help. And I'm the only one who can provide it. Right now." The accusatory tone, the implication that her needs were somehow less significant, less real, ignited a fury within Rita that had been carefully banked for weeks. "And what about our family, Mark?" she shot back, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. "What about Lisa? What about me? Have we become less important because Chloe's parents have needs? You're sacrificing my future for what? For your new family?" The words were out before she could stop them, sharp and barbed, born from a deep-seated fear of abandonment. Mark's face contorted with a mixture of pain and disbelief. "My new family?" he echoed, his voice low and dangerous. "Is that what you think this is? I'm trying to be there for the people I love, Rita. And you're so caught up in your own ambitions, you can't even see what's happening around you. You're being selfish." The accusation of selfishness was the final severing blow. It struck at the core of Rita's identity, at the very qualities she believed defined her. Her loyalty, her consideration, her willingness to sacrifice. She had always tried to be the responsible one, the one who understood the weight of their Circumstances. To be labeled selfish, especially by her own brother, felt like a profound betrayal. Selfish, she choked out, tears finally blurring her vision. I'm selfish. For wanting a future? For wanting to contribute? You're the one who's changed, Mark. You're not the brother I knew. She turned and fled, the hurt and anger a suffocating weight in her chest. The house, which had once been a symbol of their shared past, now felt like a battlefield, a testament to their fractured present. Lisa, who had been in her room, emerged with wide, frightened eyes, drawn by the raised voices. She found Rita sobbing uncontrollably in her room, the silence of the house now deafening after the ferocity of their argument. The chasm between Rita and Mark had